I am an out teacher at my school, out as both bisexual and trans, and a lot of other teachers on TikTok were wondering how I managed coming out to my students. And it's a really interesting story. So this was right before the pandemic. I came back to my school after being away from it for a while, during which time I transitioned. So none of the kids knew me as trans, but I wanted to talk about it. So what I did is, as soon as I came back, I joined up with the GSA, realized how many questions the kids had, and decided the best thing to do would be to host a Q&A. So the kids made up a whole bunch of flyers, and then one day during lunch, we hosted the tea talk. It was a triple entendre of T as in trans, T as in spilling the tea, and T as in we literally served them tea. It was great. It was a huge success. So many people showed up. We didn't have nearly enough tea for everyone. And I spent about 10 minutes talking about the difference between gender, sex, and sexual orientation, and then also talking about my own life story, sort of like the highlight reel of how I decided to come out. And then for the remaining 30 minutes, the kids asked questions and I gave answers wherever I felt comfortable. None of the kids asked anything too intrusive, so it was fine. The sixth graders asked a lot of literal fact-based questions, like asking what certain terms meant and stuff like that. And the eighth graders asked stuff that was more emotional, like how did it feel to do, or what was the hardest part about blah, blah, blah. It was a really great opportunity. A lot of the kids, I came to realize, had so much in them, so much welling up that they wanted to talk about or ask about, and they just didn't know how to do that. Maybe they wanted to share some of their own experiences. Maybe they wanted to know how to be a better ally. Maybe they just wanted to know they weren't alone. But without a sort of formalized event, they didn't feel comfortable coming to me and asking me these questions that I was so ready to answer. Now, I will say I was fortunate enough to have been an assistant teacher at my school for 2 years before I came out, so I knew that the school would be accepting. I was also in New York City, so I knew I wouldn't get a lot of parent backlash. But I highly recommend talking with staff, principals, to get a gauge for if you can do something like this, because it's super worth it. And since that event, I have been a teacher that students can come to. I've spent hours on Zoom last year talking with kids who needed to understand themselves better. I've been someone that students come to when they're upset and there's a problem. They know they can turn to me. It's been really invaluable. But I need to share my absolute favorite story. During the tea talk itself, I was talking about when I specifically came out as trans, and one of the kids just goes bug-eyed. And he's like, "Wait, you're trans?" And I'm like, "Yeah, didn't you read the sign that says Remy talks about being trans?" And he goes, "Oh, I just came for the free tea." I love this kid.